ancient world, fire was a gift from the gods to man. Without fire, we'd never have evolved to the high level we have. This series is about cooking with fire, the ultimate barbecue experience. Over tens of thousands of years, the use of flame or coals to cook food has become incredibly complex. But what hasn't changed is the magnetic attraction man has to fire, an elemental link, something buried deep in our psyche, a connection to our ancestors. Welcome to Food Safari Fire. In this episode of Food Safari Fire, the masters of the flame share their secrets. The best type of woods match to different foods. How charcoal is made and an introduction to the highest grade by a master. Learn how to cook the perfect steak. And the hottest thing in the food world right now, the sexy world of smoking. Rodney Dunn is a former chef and magazine food editor who went in search of produce that tasted wonderful and decided to grow his own, settling in the Derwent Valley outside Hobart in 2007, putting in an extensive vegetable garden and small farm, and opening the popular cooking school, the Agrarian Kitchen. For Rodney, fire is where it all starts.
It provides everything we need, warmth, it provides cooking, and it kept away predators and all of that stuff all rolled into one. So incredibly important in terms of our evolution as humans.
And it makes food taste incredible, doesn't it?
Well, the smoke that comes off the food, you can infuse it with that and you can replicate any modern convenient cooking method we have, from braising to steaming to roasting to grilling. It can all be done, a bit of wood and some fire.
How marvellous. Rodney believes you don't have to spend a fortune on cooking devices. 2 lengths of star picket and some wire ties are an ingenious way to roast meat. So you're actually bringing the fire to the meat?
Yes, or taking it away as you go.
And do you then flip it so it sort of cooks at
yes, so we
levels?
can turn that around, and the other thing we can do is push it over.
Ah, yes.
Like that.
Oh, isn't that clever?
Towards the fire.
Wow. How long will this beautiful piece of pork take?
A couple of hours, I reckon. Yeah.
And the flavours you've got with it?
We've got some rosemary, black pepper with the salt, and lemon rind just rubbed all over it.
Delicious. So it's actually quite a simple mix.
It's really important when you're cooking with fire, you've got so many other things going on, is you keep your ingredients and you keep the dish simple. You want to concentrate on cooking it perfectly, and that's the challenge.
Tell me about this extraordinary trussing method that you have for your chicken.
So this is called à la ficelle, meaning on the string in French. And it was a thing that they used to do in their hunting lodges. They'd do haunches of boar and things. So it's an economic version of a spit.
It certainly is.
And guess what we're going to put it on?
What?
Another star picket.
Oh, gee.
So this is just slowly spinning and it winds up and then it'll go back the other way. And occasionally we'll need to give it another little prod to keep it going.
That is very clever. What temperature do you think you're cooking at? It's really hot.
It's hot, so look, it'd have to be at least a couple of 100 degrees, I'd say.
Easy, yeah. Vegetables are often best cooked underground or buried in the coals. A whole pumpkin cooked slowly to steaming sweet perfection. And a mix of root vegetables straight from the garden is slow cooked in damp calico.
So we've got our carrots, we've got some parsnip. These interesting characters here are scorzonera, so they're a really old root vegetable. And then we've also got some Jerusalem artichokes. This is your slow cooker.
It is your slow cooker.
This is your slow cooker.
OK, so coals and then a layer of earth.
Yes, just to insulate the coal a little bit. And then that can go in.
OK. So you're really burying that?
Yeah, otherwise they're going to burn. We're going to give it a good couple of hours. OK, Maeve, let's have a look. Yeah, that looks familiar, doesn't it?
So they'll be steamed, not roasted, so there won't be any brown on the outside?
There won't be any brown, no.
Oh, look at that. They done?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Chicken can come off.
I think that's been the most surprising thing, seeing your chicken on a string, à la ficelle.
Wow.
What a successful cooking method, Rodney.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Oh, my heavens, Rodney.
We'll just have that big sheet of
Oh, that
crackling.
is beautiful.
Just a bit of salt we rubbed into it. Lemon and rosemary. A little bit of sauce.
Very nice.
An aioli with lots of garlic and some chilli and some fennel.
Gosh, that looks amazing. And all this you've cooked on the fire.
One big fire and one big feast.
Very, very wonderful. Thank you, Rodney.
My pleasure.
Just as wine is matched to certain foods, wood is matched to a whole range of meat, poultry, seafood and vegetables cooked over a fire. Different timbers have different flavours and burn at a whole range of temperatures.
For me, it's intrinsic to the dish. It is not just the heat source, it's the seasoning that gives it the ability to just enhance the natural characteristics of the ingredient. And if you can get the magic combination of a certain ingredient with a certain type of wood, it's just fantastic.
Lennox Hasty worked at 3 Michelin star level in Europe before deciding the star system concentrated too much on technique and not enough on produce. He ended up working in the acclaimed Asador Etxebarri in the Basque region of Spain and became entranced by working with fire, moving to Australia and opening Fire Door in mid-2015. And so how have you gone about matching woods to what you're cooking?
I think a lot of it comes just through trial and error. You know, you find the ingredient and then you work out what's the best way to handle it. How can I best respect this ingredient? So we have a base of ironbark, which is the sort of the larger log growing towards the back. You've got some nectarine on the right-hand side, and then we have some apple on the left-hand side. In the foreground, we have some grapevines, which are these gnarly objects here.
Wow, they're more than vines.
They've got this beautiful sort of a rich smokiness. They burn very quickly.
And what are you cooking over it, Lennox?
This is mainly sort of for the richer meats.
And fruit woods, I know that you love.
I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I think they're great because it enables you to grill and work with those delicate ingredients. It has a much more subtle nuance of flavour. In some respects, could be a fruitiness, could be a nuttiness. It really sort of marries well with those sort of things like fish and shellfish. So today we're going to grill some live marron.
Grill them live.
Well, we're going to kill them first.
Yeah.
But they're going to be fresh. So the quickest way, so find the top of the head where the cross meets, straight down, that's it.
That's the end of the marron.
That's the end of the marron. So I think if you're going to have something like a marron or a lobster or a prawn, you really want to make sure it's as fresh as possible.
Well, you've certainly done that, Lennox. You've certainly
And you don't
done
really
that.
get much fresher than this.
No.
So just remove the intestinal tract. And so that's the preparation of the marron. So I'm just going to grab some of the nectarine wood. So it's literally just taking the amount of coals you need for each ingredient. Here we have the marron. Just lay them directly on the grill. Season with some local sea salt. Then I can adjust the wheel, which enables me to have complete control over the amount of radiant heat and the proximity to the coals themselves. I give them a light spraying of grapeseed oil, which has a high heat propensity. Lay a tray just on top.
You will taste the wood.
But the thing is, it's not so much so that people go, that tastes like nectarine wood or that tastes like apple wood. It's so they actually go, wow, that tastes like marron. Just look at these.
Ooh, they're really cooking away.
These are almost reaching their doneness. It's not completely cooked. You want it slightly on the translucent side. Simple.
Yes.
So simple. So we just have some native herbs here, which we have some sea blight and some barilla, which is native spinach. Then we have the finger limes. We have a variety of colours. You know, we encourage the customers to eat these parts, the coral and the brain and the finger line.
Many new ingredients in these for me.
Yeah, see, look at that, it's beautiful and juicy. See all the juices just inside
Oh, look at that. That is a beautiful delicate flavour, and it is
there. A little bit of that sea blight with it.
marron flavour. Simple, but that is absolutely lovely. One of the most intriguing things about spending time with fire gurus is their insistence on working with charcoal. The beautiful, consistent heat, the flavour, and for some, the sheer joy of looking into the coals.
Charcoal is distilled wood. It's wood that's had everything else driven off it, the water and the volatiles, and you're left with the skeleton of the tree. Pure, solid, beautiful carbon. All you get when you burn this is flame and heat, a little bit of carbon dioxide.
And do you enjoy doing this, Peter?
Love it. Heck, we're playing with fire.
Peter Marshall has become a charcoal expert. He and his family own a truffle farm near the southern New South Wales town of Braidwood and use charcoal to enrich the soil in which they grow French black truffles. They say the yield is vastly increased by using what's known as biochar dug into the soil. Tell me about this marvellous device.
Well, Move, this is a retort. Not a kiln, but a retort. And what that means is the material we're going to turn into charcoal goes into the inner chamber here. We seal that up and it becomes completely sealed no oxygen can make it in there. Then we light a fire underneath. After we got up to 375 degrees, what we'll do is we'll block that off. And so all the gases are then diverted down and it'll start pyrolysing, which means we're basically distilling the wood. It will run all night, and in the morning, you'll have a gorgeous pile of absolute top quality charcoal.
Isn't that beautiful?
Isn't that gorgeous?
Wow. It's actually charcoal artwork, Peter.
Thank you.
Binchatan sounds like it's the Rolls-Royce of charcoals. Why is it so loved?
Because it's so dense. It's the hardest, heaviest timber. So when you cook with it, it's got an incredible amount of power. It almost instantaneously cooks the outside, sealing in the juices. And the food that comes out under the hands of a wonderful chef can be just tremendous.
Tetsuya Wakuda is one of Australia's greatest chefs. His award-winning Sydney and Singapore restaurants are world-renowned, with dishes that combine the best of Japanese and French technique. But the simplicity of cooking over charcoal still holds an attraction for him.
This is a binchotan, so you can see how hard it is.
Wow.
Create maybe one of the highest riding heat. Look, no flame, but this is hot as.
That is hot as.
Just give quiet heat. What we're gonna do first,
So what does that do?
otherwise the skin will sort of fish twisted.
Oh, yes.
So that's why this is, and also to absorb the sauce better. So, on the tray, a little bit of salt. So skin side, naturally you get the salt, okay? Just a little. What we're gonna do, just a bit of center, and just like so. Initially, I won't cook very gentle because very soft flesh.
Yes.
Right? So just like this, like that, like so, just.
So you have a special liquid that you want to brush on. Tell us how you've made this.
Okay, so simple. 900 ml mirin, 300 ml sake, and then boil it to get alcohol. You don't reduce or anything. So how you check it? Put the match on, doesn't fire. That means alcohol is gone. And then add soy sauce, about 300 ml. That's it. And then next thing is 250 gram of saikyo miso. That's sweet one I prefer, white sweet
White.
miso. And then you can add it whatever you like, just normal steak or whatever. Oh, look that. Wow.
That is so beautiful.
Isn't it? Smell? That smells good. I love that. Once you actually sauce get dry, and then again, just keep,
Oh, you build up the layers of sauce.
yes. Yeah, ooh, start. Okay, now this is white sesame oil.
Ah,
Give you shiny, but also give you more smoke. And then
oh,
this is what I'm after.
yeah.
It's caramelized.
It looks as nice as a creme brulee.
And I just love a little spice, which is sansho.
Ah, sansho, which is a Japanese-style pepper.
Japanese pepper, yes. So, grilled Spanish mackerel with miso and soy.
Beautiful, Tetsuya. Absolute artwork.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, look at how that breaks so beautifully. Cheers.
The second.
That is beautiful. Subtle. Oh my gosh, that fish is one of the best I've ever eaten. It is lovely. Thank you.
Pleasure.
There's no doubt that in the food world, smoking is the new black. The sultry, smoky aromas an essential part of food festivals.
Yeah, well, here we go.
Anthony Paharic is a devotee. He was born into a large food-loving Croatian family and joined his father Victor in the butchery and meat processing business.
It's genuinely low and slow. You know, we're cooking at a temperature of 250 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a little bit over 100 degrees Celsius, and you're smoking it for a long period of time. It's not just about, you know, the unique flavour of that particular piece of meat. It's about this extra dimension that sort of smoke brings.
People seem to fall in love with it,
Yeah.
don't they? There's an obsessional thing about smoking.
Yeah.
And you've got it.
I was bitten by that bug like 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
ago. It's unctuous, it's tender, it's smoky, it's juicy, it's just everything.
Show me how the process works, Anthony.
I mean, we've got Kong. This is an offset smoker because we've got our firebox here. I mean, we smoke over iron bark that we source out of the Blackheath area. All that sort of smoke and heat gets drawn into this smoking chamber.
It's not a great waft of smoke, it's
No.
a gentle amount of
Yeah.
smoke.
So we use a very, very simple rub. Just salt and pepper is a key complementary ingredient in terms of creating the perfect brisket. On average, they sort of take about 12 hours to sort of cook, so a very long process.
So this is the holy grail of barbecue.
This is brisket is the holy grail, yeah, and it won't be long, I think, before you see these sort of barbecues in every backyard in Australia.
This is addictive, right?
Yeah, it is, and yeah, it's a drug.
Modern butcher shops are full of choices. For steak alone, there are endless decisions. Dry age, grain-fed, grass-fed, primary cuts, secondary cuts. And that's before you enter a butcher shop representing other cultures, where the choices are even wider. Victor Paharic has been a butcher for 45 years, arriving from Croatia in the days when Australia was a fairly uninspiring place for food. And as our eating habits have changed, so has his business. Vic's Meats supplies some of the top restaurants in Australia. Now, the difference between grass-fed and grain-fed.
With the grind, the color of the meat, it's completely different, especially when we're talking about the fat. It's nice and white, and it's got a lot of marbling.
And what does this taste like?
You get really, really nice, like creamy and tender. With the grass, you know, it's gonna have more beefier flavor than grind-fed, but the texture and tenderness of the meat never is gonna be as good as this grind. Because this animal working more than grind-fed beef. Grind-fed beef mainly stay inside in a pens, you know, it gets feeded 2 or 3 times a day, and you know.
Right,
with
so
the
this has the cushy life and this has the outdoor life.
That's all right, yeah. I love grass-fed, and I love, you know, I eat both.
In Victor's dry aging room, the temperature is kept at a steady 2 degrees. A salt brick wall works to take the moisture out of the meat, and time does the rest.
This is for the flavor, like especially if you dry age anything between, you know, 6 weeks to 10 or 15 weeks, and you get completely different flavor when you eat it.
Tell me, what is it?
It's amazing. It's just, you know, you can really, really taste the beef, you know, and it's tender. I mean, this is similar like, you know, you're drinking wine 2 years old, or you're drinking a bottle of wine 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 years old, you know.
So if you're a meat lover, save up your money
And come here.
Yeah,
You have to come here.
Guy Grossi is one of Australia's most respected chefs. He owns and runs 5 acclaimed Italian restaurants in Melbourne, and after almost 30 years in the kitchen, is still awed by the power of flame and coals.
You can go through as many modern techniques as you like, but the flame is really where cooking is at.
So those basics are what you want to taste?
Those basic fundamentals are still as relevant today as when man rubbed 2 sticks together. So what we've got here today is a pasture-fed T-bone, which in the Tuscan lingo or the Italian lingo we call a Fiorentino, which is the classic steak from the Chianti region, Tuscany. It's been humanely grown, so this cattle only had 1 bad day in its life, and that's what any animal should ever have. And we've had this out for quite a while, getting to ambient temperature. So what I like to do is I like to have a piece of garlic, and then rosemary in the world of Tuscany is really important. And a little bit of sage as well, I think, for today is going to be nice.
Sage leaves are enormous.
Aren't they massive? You're like sage on steroids. We're just going to do a really quick chop here. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because most of this is just going to sear away. Now, a little bit of oil on our steak as well. And
so oil
rub.
the steak, not the grill.
Well, no, it'll be terrible to oil that grill because it'll just flare up. And again, just a rub these lovely herbs. I'm an avid believer of seasoning beforehand. I find if you add it at the end without seasoning, you end up with something which tastes very single-layered or monotoned. So a little bit of cracked pepper on there also. Now let's go over to our grill here. And I'm just going to pop this over on here.
This is a cooler
lovely
part
sound.
than this one?
It's a bit cooler than here. I think we're going to go, for such a thick piece of meat, we're going to go too hard, too fast here. I know I've got a reputation for that, but not today. We're going to slow it down and enjoy the moment.
Yeah. Flame and the fat dripping down, is that something you want or not?
You want it in moderation. A couple of different schools of thought as well on the turning of steaks. There's a lot of people that say, never turn the steak and all of that stuff. But if you're cooking on a rotisserie like this, it's turning all the time. So I find that if you need to turn it a couple of times, you can.
Oh.
Now, to me, that's a perfect colour because with this particular piece of beef, being such a nice big fat piece of beef, we don't want to go really past medium rare. It's going to be kind of red around the bone.
Chef, how do you know when it's done?
Well, obviously there's some telltale giveaways. Colour's important. But when we're talking about the degree, we can feel it by touch. You can feel there's a little bit of pushback. That's how I like my steak.
So that's 35 years of knowledge in those fingertips.
It maybe doesn't take that long, but it certainly helps to have the experience of it. It's really important now that we rest our piece of meat 4 minutes or 5 minutes just to let that retract on itself so it sucks in its own juices. Now, a quick little somarillo with garlic, rosemary, and a little bit of oil. And you've got something which is simple, soothes the soul.
Yeah, it does.
And it's magnificent. It depends, there's nowhere to hide, it depends on just great product and a primal way of cooking it.
Beautiful.
Signora?
Oh, thank you. Wow. The caveman in the city.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's better than what I thought it was going to turn out.
It is delicious. Thanks, Guy.
Maeve, it's always a pleasure to cook for you, you know that.
It's always a pleasure to eat your food, Guy.
Good on you. Thank you.
On our next safari, fire-fueled street food, juicy souvlaki, satay and Vietnamese beef in betel leaf.